Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
Well then, what a Hungarian Grand Prix. A simply fantastic race there. We had quite a lot of action, quite a lot of drama. Sadly, the rain actually did dampen it a bit there. Sorry for the pun, but it did dampen it a bit, really. You know, we were in for something really interesting, maybe the Alfa Romeos, the Williams in the points. But sadly, we didn't get that. We finished P11. A little bit of a disappointment, considering where we were like halfway through the race. But really good, considering I thought we were starting last. We struggled for pace in quali. We should have been starting last, but everyone else is taking loads of grid penalties, which meant that we started P16 despite taking a 5-place grid drop. We had a fantastic start, made our way up the order, and really, you know, we finished 7 odd seconds behind Lance Stroll in the end. We started to drop away from him. We struggled in the wet conditions, but despite it being our first non-points score of the season, I still thought it was a really strong performance from us. Pretty happy with that, considering earlier in the race weekend. But your pole sitter, Checo Perez, dropped down to P3. The winner was Valtteri Bottas for Mercedes. The Finn is flying away with this championship. P3 on the grid, got up to P2 on the start, overtaking Checo, who dropped down, I think, to P3. Really not what Perez would have wanted, or Red Bull, but really solid for Mercedes. Finnish driver finishing first. 2 puns to do with his home country there. His best lap won at 19.975. Lovely to see sort of a lap time. Only 2 drivers actually got into that. The fastest lap went to Max Verstappen, who didn't finish the race, so he will not be taking any points for that. But 25 points for the Mercedes driver. Really, really solid result for him. He's got those consistent results in this season, and that is leading him towards the championship trophy for this season 1 in my team career mode. It has been really, really good, consistent driving throughout the season from Valtteri, and another win here. You know, of course, he managed to get the overtake on Max Verstappen. Really clever, getting into the battle when Verstappen was stuck behind Tsunoda and got the overtake there. Then got the overtake on Tsunoda. A dominant drive from Valtteri Bottas from P3 on the grid. Not the best of quali, but in the race, he certainly made it count. And I have to say, Bottas is starting to just walk away with this championship. But just behind was Charles Leclerc in P2. The Ferrari driver, 2.224 seconds behind. For that Ferrari to be that close to Mercedes, we know it in the R&D, it's probably about 2/10 behind. Like a lap, maybe like a 10th and a half. But Charles Leclerc from P5 on the grid, I think he took grid penalties himself. You know, so from P5 on the grid, with the grid penalty, to come through to P2, simply fantastic. He got ahead of Hamilton off the start, then in the rest of the race, just kept ploughing in. He got past Checo Perez, of course. I do believe that might have been... When was that now? Can't fully remember. It might have been in the pits, but of course he took advantage of Verstappen's DNF. Charles Leclerc, P2 for Ferrari, once again on the podium. Still yet to get a win, actually. He's been P2 for quite a couple of times now. So he was P2 today, and he, of course, was fighting on the podium a couple of times earlier in the season. It was Spain, where he also finished P2 there. Hopefully he can get that elusive victory sometime soon in this career mode. But the Monegasque, 18 points, And that will put him back ahead of Checo Perez in the championship, I do believe. Perez, for Red Bull, from pole position, dropped down to P3 off the start. Now, of course, lost out to Leclerc later in the session, in the race, but regained a position because of Verstappen's mechanical failure. The only Red Bull driver to finish the race, and the only Red Bull driver in the points, but third at the flag, first on the grid is certainly not what he would have been wanting. He finishes second odd behind Charles Leclerc, the Ferrari. But Perez needed a win this weekend. He needed a good result for the championship. We'll move on to the championship in a minute, but he needed that, and he hasn't got it. Lewis Hamilton, P4, a disappointing result for him. He was quite a chunk behind, 12 seconds off the lead. And I do understand that was because I didn't defend that hard from Charles, and I did defend from Lewis. That was a tactical thing, because I knew that Charles would then attack Lance, who would be then closer to us, because I knew Charles was going to get past us at some point. I defended from Hamilton, so that then if we got past Stroll, then Stroll would have to defend from Hamilton and we'd be able to get away. It was a tactical one, but Lewis Hamilton, despite that, really should have been closer to the front three. 12 points in this one. That's not what he wanted, and he's going to drift further away from his teammate and further out of the title fight. Yes, he'll catch up to Verstappen, but it's looking like it's Hamilton and Verstappen for P2. Pierre Gasly with another fantastic, consistent result. He continues with that theme in this season. 10 points. Started 6th on the grid. It was a decent start. And then, of course, after the pit stops had been done, the first pit stops, he managed to get ahead of his teammate. His teammate, sadly, was double stacked. He dropped down the order. But Pierre Gasly, consistent once again. Best of the midfield in today's race. 6th to 5th. Another solid result and a 10 points for AlphaTauri there. If he keeps doing this, you know, they're going to get a decent position at the end of this season. With Sebastian Vettel, P6 for Aston Martin, certainly wasn't as quick as Gasly and Sainz and Norris. Had some defending to do there, but a track where it's wet, and of course, there's only 2 DRS zones, one of which is incredibly small. You can't really overtake here at the Hungaroring that easily. And as a result, Sebastian Vettel managed to stay there. P7 on the grid to P6 at the flag. 8 more points for Aston Martin. A solid result from him today and a good result for the team. That's our rival. He finishes ahead of it. It's going to be really close in that rivalry heading into Spa. It's really going to spice things up. Carlos Sainz, P7 for Ferrari, ahead of Lando Norris, who's in the McLaren. 14th and 15th. Carl Lando finished together at the flag. The old teammates with a fantastic race result, considering where they were to start with, and the fact that they were going to have to do the 2-stop, and everyone else who qualified in, well, went out in Q2 or Q1 could have gone for the 1-stop. Good, solid result for Carlos there. 6 points. Lando needed a good result, to say the least, actually. 4 points isn't going to close him up to Carlos. He drops 2 points further away from Carlos and only gains 4 on his teammate, losing even more to Charles. Charles is looking really decent in the battle for 4th at the moment. But Lando needs a good result, needs a few good results at the end of the season if he wants to catch up to his teammate and Carlos. Yuki Tsunoda, P9, real shame for him. P8 on the grid, fantastic first half to the race. Then, of course, once he pitted, he was just behind his teammate, Pierre Gasly. But then, of course, when we went on to the Inters, if he'd have stayed out a lap, he probably would have finished, I'm guessing, maybe about P7 or something like that. So frustrating for him. They double stacked at AlphaTauri, and as a result, he dropped all the way from what would have been P6 down to P9. But still 2 points for the young Japanese driver. A fantastic performance once again. Really good work in that AlphaTauri with the 2-stopper. Made that work. It was going to be a 1-stop. It was going to be a fantastic race result for Yuki. A bit of a shame in the end, but another solid, strong performance. And then Lance Stroll takes another point after quite what has been suddenly a rough season for him since Bahrain. That's his 3rd point of the season, his first one in the second half. It's good for him to get something decent, you know, he's had so many DNS. He started P9, of course, dropped down to P10. It was just an okay race, really. Not much to say about it. A point, that's what he needed. We finish P11 outside the points, as I was saying. You know, the rain meant that we couldn't take the advantage of having one less stop than a lot of the other drivers, and meant that we pretty much just stuck in P11 with nothing to do. Kimi Raikkonen, the last of those not to be lapped, P12 for Alfa Romeo. The highest of those drivers. Had we not have had as much rain and we'd have stayed on slicks, there's a good chance that he could have taken Alfa Romeo's first points this season, but not to be today, with George Russell, the first of those, lapped in P13. He also dropped down the order like Kimi. It was an okay race from Russell, to be fair with you. Solid one. He only dropped one place and he had significantly faster cars behind him. So actually, a really decent result from George there. Fernando Alonso, despite a very, very slow starting race, managed to make his way up to P14 from 22nd on the grid. That's actually a very, very decent end to the race there. You know, took advantage of others' misfortunes and spins and everything like that, and made his way up to P14, but still no points for Alpine. Mick Schumacher, 15th, one of his best results of the season, from 20th on the grid. A solid drive from him. So my teammate Robert finished P16. Not that good, really, to be fair with you, from P17 on the grid, considering there were 2 DNFs, but he's given it a good go. On to the next one, you know, that's what I'm going to say. On to the next one for Robert, and hopefully he can push on to top 15 next time. But it's not an absolute shambles, and that's what's important. It's a solid result around a very much in form Mick Schumacher. Esteban Ocon made up 2 places. By the flag, he also got lapped. That's the Alpine car. Like his teammate, still yet to score a point this season. Then Antonio Giovinazzi and Nikita Mazepin are next. Giovinazzi could have been P12, probably would have been P12, had he not have spun. Real shame for him from P11 in the grid. It could have been points at one point, but not to be for Antonio after that spin. Who else spun? That was Nicholas Latifi, who finished P20th, and P20th by quite a chunk. Mazepin was in between those two. An okay result for the Haas, normally, for Mazepin and Latifi, sat near the back. And then your 2 drivers who sadly did not make it to the flag. Daniel Ricciardo, who DNF'd just behind us, actually, in the race. It's actually, think, just before we were getting onto the intermediates. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen. What a shame. What a shame for Max. I actually think that was after we got on the intermediates with Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen. What a shame for Max, though. Fastest lap. It was a promising P2 there, really. And now, thanks to that mechanical failure, he is certainly going into the final 3 races of the season at a huge disadvantage. He's got a 43-point deficit to Valtteri Bottas. And yes, it is technically possible for Verstappen to be able to claw that in, but we're looking at Bottas having to have DNFs at the moment. The chances of it are very unlikely. Bottas is looking comfortable out front. He has 140 points after 7 races, averaging at 14-20. Yeah. So that's just me talking absolute rubbish. Averaging at 20 points a race. That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. 20 points a race is really good quality there from Valtteri. Max Verstappen, of course, P2, 43 points behind. Meanwhile, Hamilton, who managed to finish the race, his car held up, claws the gap down to Verstappen to just 8. There is a battle on for second, but Bottas is running away with the lead. Then, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari back ahead of Sergio Perez. Leclerc is only just 5 points behind Hamilton. I'm not saying anything, but he could actually get into the top 3 fight by the end of the season. He's in a battle with Perez and he leads by 1 point from the Mexican. That is getting very, very spicy. The top 5, 60 points to the leader, but the top, second to 5th is very close at the moment. Charles Leclerc, of course, moves ahead of Perez with that P2. He is, as I was saying, just 7 points behind Hamilton. He could catch up. His job, though, will be to try and stay ahead of Perez by the end of the season in the standings. 1 point separating them. It's all to play for with the final 3 races. Then, of course, we remain P6, dropping further away from the front 5. That's what I expected, as Carlos Sainz catches up to us. Only 6 points behind us now. He's up into P7 ahead of Danny Rick, who has 40 points. He didn't score today due to a mechanical failure. So the gap between Sainz and Ricciardo, 2 points, both Ferraris ahead of both McLarens. Then Pierre Gasly, P9 for AlphaTauri, 35 points. 5 points, only 5 points behind Danny Rick. He's trying to get into that fight, and I certainly wouldn't write him out with these consistent results he's been bringing to the table. Then rounding out the top 10, Lando Norris. You know, that fairly disappointing result today. Leaves him with 27 points, you know. Don't know what to say for him. He's 9 points behind Pierre Gasly. He's way behind Leclerc. You look at that gap there, massive. He's quite a chunk behind his teammate and Sainz. He's going to have some miracle races and disasters for Sainz, Ricciardo and Leclerc if he wants to catch back up to them. But he's certainly looking like his best possible result at the moment is looking like getting past Pierre Gasly for P9, which would be quite good, salvaging it in terms of that. Just 10 points behind him. Seb Vettel on 17. It's been a consistent season so far for him. A lot of P11s, but some good points, and he continues that run today. One of his best finishes of the season, the German. On 17 now, 6 ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who only got 2 points today, I do believe. A shame for Yuki. Really, Yuki should have finished ahead of Sebastian, but because of the double stack at AlphaTauri, and that's the way F1 works, you know, you get things like that. He doesn't finish there. You know, it's a shame. You know, Tsunoda should have been ahead of Vettel. It's just the way F1 works, though, isn't it? It's harsh sport. It really is a harsh sport. But really great to see Vettel in P11 putting in some good performances. Only 10 behind Lando. And if Lando's nightmares continue, Seb will be breathing down his neck quite a bit. Hopefully he's brushed his teeth. Tsunoda, of course, yes, P12 for AlphaTauri, 6 points behind. He can still catch that up. We know he's got good results in him. We saw some fantastic driving today, and if he can continue that, he might be able to catch up to the German. Then Lance Stroll has 3 points, the last of those with points. 8 behind Tsunoda. Stroll's low focus means that he probably won't be scoring much more this season, but good to see him getting in the points again. And then the Alpines, the Alfa Romeos, the Williams and the Haas still yet to score, along with my teammate. The Alpines are the top of that. This is in terms of, for all these who haven't scored, in terms of their best result. Interesting to see Mazepin ahead of Schumacher there. But, you know, you would have expected Alpine to have scored by now. They have 3 more races. Come on, Alpine, you know, get something before the end of the season. All those drivers, though, still yet to get a point. Then in your constructor standings, another DNF for Red Bull means they're now 51 points behind Mercedes, which does mean that if Mercedes were to have both cars DNFing next race, and then Red Bull had P1 and 2 with P1 getting the fastest lap, or vice versa, they still wouldn't be parachuted into the top of the standings. Red Bull are quite a chunk behind. 51 is a big gap to negate. It's going to need a Mercedes disaster and a Red Bull triumph in the final 3 rounds. Another solid score for Mercedes means that Red Bull 51 points behind, and then Ferrari 105 points behind the lead. They're looking very tasty for P3 now. They've pretty much taken it home. In fact, it's merely mathematically possible for them to just have P3. You know, I think that'll probably be confirmed mathematically by the end of next race, but McLaren 162 off the lead, just under 60 off Ferrari. That gap's not being caught up. I'm pretty sure that gap's not being caught up, you know. I'm going to say that now. Ferrari looking very firm for P3, and McLaren looking decent P4, because we are behind with 48 points in P5, but we're not going to be competing incredibly, I don't think, at Spa and Kotu. We might be getting a good result at Mexico. Not entirely sure, but I think that's where our form will be in terms of ourselves and the car. But, you know, we are quite a chunk behind McLaren. The top 3 certainly looking like they're starting to form in stone. Maybe even the top 4. AlphaTauri 2 points behind us. That is going to be the battle in the final 3 races this season. It's going to be ourselves versus AlphaTauri for P5, and the gap is 2 points. That it will be the battle, and it's certainly going to be, hopefully, an enthralling one there. Got to love a good old battle heading into the season's finale, and hopefully, you know, we can really get some decent results in the next few Grand Prix. I know AlphaTauri have got a better car than us, and they will be getting in the points probably at the next 2 races, so it's going to be taking down to Mexico for P5, 2 points separating ourselves and AlphaTauri. Then P7, Aston Martin looking very comfortable there with 20 points. 20 points ahead of Alpine, who are still yet to score, along with Alfa Romeo, Williams and Haas. So there is your order. Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren looking pretty set in stone. It's the battle. It's ourselves versus AlphaTauri for P5. There we have it. What an exciting Hungarian Grand Prix. If you guys have enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. But your main story is Valtteri Bottas is flying away. The flying Finn with the championship at the moment. Another great result. Another great podium for Charles Leclerc with Perez P3. Verstappen, DNFs, almost taking him out the title fight. Hamilton catches. Heartbreakish for Tsunoda in the pits. And then, of course, recovery for the likes of Sainz and Norris, who, of course, had to take a grid penalty. We finished P11, the first no points score of the season, as Alpine still haven't scored yet, along with Alfa Romeo, Williams and Haas. We have 3 races left in the championship, and join me later next week for what will be qualifying at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Yes, we're going historic for the 3rd to last race of the season. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.